What's up, metalheads? Welcome to the Scrap Metal Podcast, the show for the misfits who've been listening to the same music since high school. I'm your host, John von Frankenstein, and joining me today is my metal thrashing mad co-host, Chris. Chris, I gotta ask you, man, how you feeling?
I gotta say, I'm feeling like I just can't shake it off.
Oh, no. Dude, are you, starting to fall for Taylor Swift? Are
No.
you getting Kelsey'd here? What's going on? I need to know. Chris, is this feeling of not being able to just shake it off have anything to do with how you're keeping your heavy metal street cred?
I briefly had a flashback to Raffi shaking his shakies out. But this just might have something to do with how I've been keeping my heavy metal street cred. I believe we've discussed that since the first episode of this show, I've talked about the band Screaming Females.
Yeah, pretty much.
For the past week, I have been listening to them a lot because you shared the sad news with me through a meme that Screaming Females is breaking up. And It is a sad day for music that New Jersey's own Screaming Females, after 18 years, they're breaking up. So
yeah, that is incredible. I couldn't believe it, but I know that they had been canceling shows here and there. I think you might have mentioned to me that Marissa might have been facing some health issues or something along those lines. So it's really sad to see, especially I got introduced to them via this podcast.
Yeah.
So, it sucks. It really sucks.
Yeah, it really does. And like I said, I was introduced to them through their cover of Shake It Off by Taylor Swift. Yeah. AV Club doing their Undercover, where these bands come in and do covers of pop songs, and they did Shake It Off. And I was like, this woman's voice is amazing. I need to hear more of Screaming Females, and I fell in love with them as soon as I started listening to them, and I know I even said to you, they released an album earlier this year, back in February.
Right.
But yeah, unfortunately, like I said, I had heard through someone that Marissa might be dealing with some health issues, and that's why shows have been canceled. I saw someone comment, I think either on the post you sent me or the post on the official Screaming Females page, that they were like, yeah, I drove 4 hours to get there and found out when I was halfway there to find out that the show was canceled, which is such a bummer. Because like I said, they're a great band, a lot of great music. So it's a shame that after 18 years they're hanging it up. This has not been a good year for me. Sum 41 broke up over the summer. Now Screaming Females are breaking up to end the year. It's just hasn't been my year for some of my favorite bands.
Seriously, stop liking good bands.
I know,
that's
right?
the moral of the story.
So
you have to just not like anything.
So I'm going to become a massive fan of Megadeth, and hopefully in the next few months they break up.
Like some sort of Chris voodoo. You're just going to be like, boy, I really love Megadeth.
Yeah.
It's like Mustaine. Mustaine says he's hanging it up.
Yep.
That's it. The time has come. Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, it really sucks, and thankfully, music and the legacy that a band will build last forever, so thankfully we have the albums that we can go back and listen to and, enjoy those, and going back and just being able to take the time to really reflect on what Screaming Females did for music. So here's us pouring one out for Screaming Females. We'll always remember you guys. And, I feel like the only thing that would be able to take your mind off of a devastating breakup of a band like that is to just have a blast off. Whenever I feel like I've had a rough day, I'll just have a blast off. If I'm having trouble sleeping, I remember friends saying to me in the past, how do you fall asleep? After a blast off. And I'm like, now I can only go to sleep if I've had a blast off first. And if you're wondering what the fuck I'm talking about blast beats. I love fucking blast beats. Blast beats are everywhere in the music that we listen to. I enjoy them. You enjoy them. Sometime we have a blast off together, which is awesome. It's the most fun. So we're inviting you as our listeners to join Chris and I as we blast each other off in this episode where we mention our favorite blast beats. Chris, are you excited to blast off for me?
I am so excited to blast off. Folks,
it was fun being on YouTube. It was
folks,
fun having a podcast.
Buckle up. It's going to be 45 minutes of this. Like,
Pretty much.
But I am very excited to talk about blast beats because we've brought it up before. We're both musicians, but drums are not part of those instruments we play. So us talking about a drum technique should be super engaging and knowledgeable and you know, lots of learning experiences here. But yeah, I'm excited. Like you're saying, blast beats are such a huge part of the styles of music we love, and it's a nice signal of how intense the music can be when you start hearing those blast beats. So yeah, I'm excited to blast off all over the place.
Oh, awesome. I mean, you know, it makes you really happy that just collectively the music world has decided if the drummer's going to have a blast off, just keep him in the back where nobody can really see him. And just let him blast away. He's not hurting anybody. You know, he's just, the hands are going. Sometimes he's using two hands. Usually it's two hands, right? But yeah, dude, it's the fucking best. And like, usually when someone thinks of, or if someone brings up a blast beat, I feel like they usually think of like death metal.
Yep.
Or like technical death metal. But there are so many different kinds of blast beats. There are so many different genres that employ the blast beat. I mean, you can hear a blast beat in a Norwegian death metal song, and you can hear it in a Slipknot song. So it's like, it runs the gamut. It really does. And it just helps to lend, like you said, that intensity to a song. And it adds just something else to the composition itself. So, Chris, go ahead. I don't want you to blast off too quickly, but I want to get things going. Give us your first favorite blast beat.
So the first song I want to talk about is the song Pulverized by Cannibal Corpse.
Nice.
This is off of their 1994 album, The Bleeding. This is one of my favorite Cannibal Corpse songs, off of my favorite Cannibal Corpse album. This song is almost exclusively blast beats. It starts off with a very fast intro, some harmonized guitar, and then it's just blast beats for like 90 seconds straight, you know, over the verse and the chorus, and then they slow it down a bit, and then the blast beats come back, and then they slow it down, the blast beats come back, and it's one of the, I'd say, few songs I'll be talking about today where blast beats are present throughout the entire song, and it's not just a 30-second song, because you see that with some, like, grindcore bands with really short songs, and it'll be blast beats, but it's blast beats for 45 seconds, and that's the whole song.
Right.
Whereas, you know, Pulverized is like a 4-minute long song, and at least, you know, 2/3 of the song, the drumming is blast beats. So it's I think that's a big part of the reason why this has been one of my favorite Cannibal Corpse songs since I heard it. It's such an intense song. It's got great harmonized guitars, and the lyrics are great. So the song Pulverized is about killing people, and how I'm not 100% sure, because the verses are very much like temptation to kill again, sensation comes over me. I'm pretty sure he says, I can't stop murdering. But then the chorus where he says pulverized is about getting murdered. And so I'm not sure if it's one of those cases where the verse is from the murderer's perspective and the chorus is from the victim's perspective, or if this is someone getting revenge on the murderer. And that the murderer is like, wait, why am I being murdered? Yeah. I was going out trying to kill someone. So it's an intense song. It's a great song. I love this song.
What's great is like the whole balance between the verse and chorus is it's like a reach around, you know? It's like first it was I'm murdering, now I'm being murdered. It's just the classic reach around.
Oh boy.
And Mazurkiewicz has the stamina to just blast off that whole time.
Yes, lots of stamina.
Cannot be beat.
Lots of stamina to blast off that much.
Could you imagine the pain in his hips? Like blasting off for 4 straight minutes. That's
Yeah.
insane. No, it really is a feat of just like physical wonder. The fact that any of these drummers can play a blast beat. I can hardly play the snare on 2 and 4. And so for these guys, it's that classic fucking blast beat, you know? Because like I said, there are different types of blast beats, and we'll get into them. But the Mazurkowitz Cannibal Corpse blast beat is the just like everything at once at the same exact time, you know, with the double bass. You know what, we should have explained what a blast beat is. These people are like, we're really confused about where this episode is going. But yeah, it's when you're alternating between a snare and a cymbal in very quick fashion, one right after another. It's almost like, imagine instead of doing a drum roll on the snare, you're dividing it between the snare and one of the cymbals, be it the ride cymbal or the hi-hats. And then usually double bass is going on underneath it as well to help just accent it. And again, it's all about that intensity. So what a fitting song to have such an intense part in.
Yep.
And I feel like one of the only other drummers that I can think of that has that sort of stamina, and he's famous because everyone calls on him. This guy has played with so many different bands, and that's the drummer George Calais. And for his stint with Nile, they recorded the song Cast Down the Heretic. And this is one of my favorite Nile songs. And it's because of the blast beats that we get, especially in the beginning of the song, where it's just Nile's riffs are, I know we joked recently about how they just take you back to ancient Egyptian times.
Yes.
But they have this like slinky serpentine type feel, and then having the blast beats underneath is so good. Again, it's building the intensity. It feels very animalistic in a way, the way that the blast beats are played, because these are like, I don't understand how someone can play that quickly with their left hand. Like, I'm a righty, so I feel like I'd be able to go faster with my right hand than I can with my left hand. But a traditional drummer stance, yeah, you're playing the snare with your left. So to imagine your hand going that quickly is just insane.
Yeah.
And it accents the very beginning of the song. It is a longer song too. Nile songs tend to be like from anywhere from 4.5 to like 7 minutes long for the most part. And yeah, this song is no exception, but the blast beats come in long chunks. So yeah, you're getting a bunch of blast beats and then in just really big chunks. This is, you guys really tuned in for a special fucking episode.
Oh my God.
Have you listened to anything that George Calais is on, or like known that you've been listening to him? Like, does his name like set a light bulb off for you?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I might have heard something he's on, but he's not someone that I'm like, oh yeah, I totally know that guy. It's
Yeah.
I don't recognize the name immediately.
Okay. But I feel like he's one of those drummers that people think of. Like, I remember back in the day, there would just be like YouTube compilations of him doing blast beats or like videos of him recording drum parts and stuff like that. And it is the traditional blast beat that like fucking, it's almost like I see people nowadays doing it and I'm like, there's no way that's not a sped up drum track or like a loop that they have going on underneath. Cause that's literally what it sounds like. Like they just have the repeat button on their MPC and they're just just like holding down a button and letting the fucking snare go. It's I can't imagine it. I can't imagine the amount of coordination and talent and the lactic acid that would build up in my forearm if I was to try to do something like that. You know what I mean? It's incredible. It really is impressive.
Yeah, definitely. You know, that's some of the things that, you know, reading about blast beats and the technique that goes into playing a blast beat and how it's, at first it was just meant to make a bunch of noise. But then eventually, you know, with death metal and technical death metal, it's like, no, this is how I'm keeping time. I am counting 16th notes at, you know, 190 beats per minute to keep time. And I'm doing it with blast beats. And it's, like you're saying, the stamina and the ability to keep that up playing live. And it is so impressive.
It is just, you make such a good point, because that's really what it is. And I remember the first couple times I heard a blast beat, I was like, oh, this drummer is playing really sloppy, because the alternating between the snare and the cymbal, it's like, so if you're just listening to the snare as like a means to keep time and not realizing that it's the whole system that's going on, it does sound kind of disorienting. It does sound like you're playing out of time in a way, because it's not a roll on one single drum. It's being spread out throughout the entire kit. And that's what makes it so impressive. You know, I know we're talking about like that machine gun blast sort of gravity roll blast beat, but then you've got like the old school, what some guys I feel like call the punk blast beat, where it's like puta 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 puta, like almost like an oompa beat. You know what I mean? Like just taka 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 taka, and it's like, it's not quite as fast as some of the other examples that we've mentioned, but it feels more punk. It feels more, I don't know what it is. I guess the subdivision that they're doing, it's not 16th notes, it's just 8th notes.
Yeah, because it's interesting that even though blast beats are so much associated with death metal or grindcore, it came out of punk. You know, the alleged first recording of blast beats was Beastie Boys and their song Riot Fight in 1982, which was a hardcore song. Beastie Boys were a hardcore band, and they play this hardcore song that is 30 seconds of blast beats. But like you're saying, there's and that's what's also interesting, is that something can be considered a blast beat. That doesn't mean it has that machine gun sound. You could be playing a blast beat at a much slower tempo, but it's still considered a blast beat. And I feel like that's the punk sound, is that you're playing, it's still fast, but it's a slower blast beat than you would get on a death metal song. Yeah,
you know what's funny is like the hardcore punk beat that I'm thinking of, that's a blast beat, except that the bass drum is a little bit more syncopated. Whereas in a traditional blast beat, instead of it's but the snare and the hi-hat are doing the same things. You know, sometimes you also get the where I wish I had a drum kit in front of me to explain this a little bit better, because you guys are listening to this or watching this and you're going, this all sounds exactly the same. In my head, it's making sense. But you can either alternate between the snare and the hi-hat, or you can play the snare and the hi-hat at the same time, with the bass drum going underneath as well, playing 16th notes. So yeah, it's whether it's a slower blast beat or a faster one, it's all a blast beat. I've even heard people saying that it can't be a blast beat if you're playing a syncopated rhythm on the snares. And I've seen other drummers be like, no, it's bullshit. A blast beat is a blast beat. If you're adding some syncopation into the cymbals, then it's now just adding a different sort of color to it. I guess if you're going to be a traditionalist, then sure, you'd think of like the original blast beat, like the Suffocation blast beat, you know, the Cannibal Corpse blast beat. But I think it's cool when drummers also try to come up with some originality and change things up a little bit so that there's some color. And I think that's their songwriter brain working and saying, like, how can I do something different with a tool in songwriting in my specific genre that's been done again and again and again, so that it just doesn't sound repetitious, you know? I also find it incredibly interesting that you read about blast beats, because I usually just watch videos about them. So, Chris, what's the next song that you like to blast off to?
So, the next song that we are blasting off to is Milk by S.O.D. This is off of their Speak English or Die album out of 1985. Anytime I am talking about how impressed I am by Charlie Benante's ability to drum at light speed, this is the song I'm talking about. This song is so fast, and the blast beats are ridiculously fast, and similar to some of the grindcore, it's only blast beats. It might slow down at some point, but the vast majority of this song are blast beats. And it's so much fun, and it's hilarious that you have this intense music being played while Billy Milano is lamenting the fact that there's no milk in the fridge and that his coffee is cold because he didn't have milk, and his Cheerios just aren't the same because he doesn't have milk. And like it's all the things I love about SOD, which is really fast crossover thrash with the stupidest lyrics you'll ever hear. And it's so much fun. And I didn't make any notes of any other songs off of this album. I'm sure there's plenty of blast beats on this album, but Milk is the song that I'm always thinking of when I am, you know, putting Charlie up on a pedestal as one of the greatest drummers in the history of the instrument. You know, this song, it's like I'm saying, it's so fast, and it's all the blast beats I'm talking about in Pulverized and even in Milk. It's what we were saying where you're hitting the cymbal and the drum at the same time. And it's just keeping that rhythm, which is so much fun. And like you're saying, it's at times it almost sounds sloppy, but I think that might also be the time frame that you're listening to. You know, like I'm saying, the first accepted recording of blast beats is 1982. You know, the jazz drummer Tony Williams allegedly invented it in 1979.
Could you imagine? It's like people in a dance hall listen to bop bop ba da 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 da.
But that
like dude is like trying to flip his girlfriend through the air. He hears the blast beat for the first time. She just goes flying. He's like, what the fuck was that?
But that's what's crazy is that, like, yes, they say that the blast beat was invented in 1979, but there are songs that they're saying, I think not the recorded version, but there are live versions of War Pigs where Bill Ward plays what's considered a blast beat. Now it's at a slower tempo, so he's playing it that style of blast beat. It's not until you get the Beastie Boys in 82, which is like a precursor to, you know, grindcore at that point, where it's just all out noise. In 1985, you've got SOD doing blast beats in this song Milk that is just noise under the guitar and bass, and Billy mad that there's no milk in the fridge. I feel like it's not until you get later on in the 90s, you know, it was Napalm Death who invented the phrase blast beat because they started using it.
Really? Okay.
And they wanted to call it something. They called it a blast beat. And you figure, I think their first album was like in 87 or something like that. Mm-hmm. So by that point, Napalm Death is still very much doing the noise grindcore type of thing. But it's getting more into, I'm not trying to make noise. I'm trying to keep time in this extremely fast style of music.
Yeah. I would have loved to have done a little bit more research and like have the actual like examples like through time. We should do that. We should create like a blast beat family tree. Let us know in the comments if you want us to create that for you guys. But basically, by we, I mean me asking Chris to do it for us. But just like where we get the first examples, like the recorded examples. And then like, I didn't know that Napalm Death is the band that had come up with the term.
Yeah.
You know, I had heard a bunch in like just different interviews and videos that I've seen throughout the years that Suffocation was the band to like really put the blast beat on the map. And I don't know if that's just because they have some of the gnarliest fucking blast beats. But I also love that like Suffocation's getting a big honorable mention in this episode. I didn't have them as one of my songs, but it's the way that you're able to keep the consistent tone in the snare. That's something that's very specific to Suffocation, where the snare is always ga 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 ga, and it's like there's no letting up on it. Sometimes you'll hear like a drummer kind of struggling, especially in the earlier days.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, now I know that it's like a human playing this.
Yeah.
Where like they start to fall out of time a little bit. A lot of early Cradle of Filth recordings, you'll get that too, where it's like the time kind of starts to creep away from them and then they bring it back. Yeah. And I love being able to see like, oh, there is a human behind the kit right now. And it doesn't sound so mechanical. I love that. And another great example of that is the blast beats in Towards Babylon by the band Behemoth. I love that we've got blast beats and then a bunch of fills, and then blast beats and a bunch of fills. Because again, for me, the reason I love the blast beat is how impressive it is for a drummer to be able to do that. So I jammed with a friend of mine recently, and I was like, I jammed on the drums. Like, I never play the fucking drums. I never get a chance to. So I was like, okay, cool. I can keep a beat. And then I tried to do a fill and everything fell apart. I was like, in my head, I was like, I'm going to be like Animal, and my hands and my arms are going to go all over the place, and I'll keep time perfectly. But as soon as it was like, gapu, bapu, bapu, dagadu, nope. After that, it just all fell apart, and then I couldn't get back into the beat. So the fact that these guys can be like, and I'm like, what the fuck? It is so fucking cool to me. And then to be able to do that while like wearing the kind of armor, the body armor that Behemoth wears. Yeah, I've loved Behemoth for a long, long time. Their music is super intense. They've turned into like the A24 of metal bands. I feel like their newer stuff is way more like dark and brooding. Like, I think what Vars Vikernes thinks Burzum is now is actually what Behemoth is doing now. Especially back in the day, like this album came out when we were in college, and this was like one of my first times hearing Behemoth. Was the song Slave Shall Serve, and this comes off of the same album. But yeah, Towards Babylon, it's just the coordination that it has to take for the and it's like, it's just constant. There's no breathing in it, and I love that about it. Like, a really cool phenomenon with like wind players, right? Like a saxophonist or a trumpet player, is that they have to breathe in order to make their instrument, to achieve a note from their instrument. Yeah. Drummers and guitarists and jazz musicians say it all the time. There's no breath there, so phrasing sometimes can get lost, where it's just a constant barrage of notes. And on one hand, it's nice to have really cool phrasing, and on the other hand, it's like, no, just fucking jackhammer me the whole fucking time.
Yes.
Some people don't like that. Some people want the breath. Some people want the longer phrasing. Other people just like to be jackhammered. And that's fine, to each their own. Chris, what's the next song on your lists of blast beats?
So, the next song I want to talk about and blast off with is the song The Inebriator by Municipal Waste.
Okay.
This is off of their album The Art of Partying from 2007. So, what's cool about this song is that the blast beats are, unlike the other two songs I've talked about, used sparingly in the song. It has a slow intro. It goes into your traditional Municipal Waste thrash metal music, but then right before the chorus, there's some blast beats. And it's so cool to just have that in there as this accent, because then what they do is they do this very cool dynamic where it's fast thrash metal, it's blast beats for like a couple measures, and then the chorus slows down. Or like they go into a slower riff that mirrors the intro riff. And it's so cool, that dynamic of blast beats going right into a slower part. And so it's really cool how they do that. And I love this whole album. And so when we were talking about doing an episode talking about blast beats, I knew I wanted to talk about this song because I love this song. I love this album from Municipal Waste. And I do have a funny story about this song. So when we were in college, I took...
Everybody has a great blast-off story. I love these.
When we were in college, I took a stage lighting class because the filmmakers and the theater kids needed to take all the same classes because our school had no idea what the fuck they were doing. So I take the stage lighting class, and early in the semester, the professor is like, pick a song. Doesn't tell us why, just says pick a song. So I had originally picked a Cannibal Corpse song. And then as we get to the end of the semester, he's like, the reason I want you to pick a song is because we're going to, as part of your final, you're going to design a light show around the song you picked. And so I didn't want to do a 4.5 minute long Cannibal Corpse song. So I pair up with one of my buddies from the film department, and we're both Municipal Waste fans. And we're like, you know what? This song, The Inebriator, has enough different tempos that we can have a lot of fun with the light show.
That's cool.
So
that's really cool. Yeah.
That was really cool that we did that. We also decided we needed some sort of prop to like light on the stage. So we built a stage out of a cardboard box. And because the song is called The Inebriator, and because so much of Municipal Waste songs, especially off of this album, is about drinking and partying, each member of the band was represented by a tall boy. And we taped pictures of drums and guitars to the tall boys and like lit it up that way. And I'll never forget my buddy telling me.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was so cool. And I remember my buddy telling me that he was hanging out with some people and he takes out the tall boy. He's like, hey guys, watch this. I'm about to do some homework. And he cracks open the tall boy and just starts chugging it. Because we need to drink the 4 beers to use the can. So he drank 2 and I drank 2. But he was so happy that he could do that. That chugging a tall boy was part of his homework.
There you go. It's the little things in life, you know? Blasting off truly does bring joy to the masses. You know what I love is, like, I was really excited to see how our songs split up, right? Like, how our lists kind of came together. Because I know that you're a fan of death metal. Like, I know you like Cannibal Corpse. But I also know that you like crossover thrash and, you know, and punk. And I was really interested to see how you'd put your list together. So hearing Municipal Waste on there and having a song that has that kind of contrast between the faster parts and the slower parts, building that contrast there and that difference within the songwriting itself is really cool. I was also really impressed at the fact that you were able to bring up Charlie Benante in an episode about blast beats. I was thinking to myself, like, there's no way Anthrax is gonna make an appearance in this episode, and you fucking did it.
Yeah, dude.
So fucking proud of you,
bro. It's like I said, Milk is just it's nothing but blast beats, and Anthrax covered their own song. I guess I don't know how that works. Like it's, yeah, right. Oh, this is a cover that, 2/5 of the band performed the original. That's like how like every fucking song that Trans-Siberian Orchestra does is like now considered a cover because they did them all as Savatage.
Right, yeah.
That's what it feels like.
But I just love, it's like exactly what we were saying before, how a blast beat doesn't necessarily get tied down by the genre. Although we think of the blast beat as something used primarily in grindcore and death metal and black metal, it definitely can be, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. And I would love to hear, I fucking hope that we get like a fucking Dua Lipa song with a fucking blast beat section in the middle. Like a blast beat section leading up to the fucking chorus or something like that. Like that would be so, imagine hearing blast beats on fucking pop radio. I want that because I feel like people would go fucking nuts for it.
Yeah.
In a way, like dubstep was almost bringing that in. And like the EDM soundscape of the past like decade, as far as pop music goes, I feel like it's kind of trying to build what up the blast beat is with like the build up to their big drops for the choruses and stuff. But I want to hear like a legit traditional blast beat in a fucking pop song. Who's going to be the first one to do it? Let's put your money down on who you think the first pop artist to use a blast beat in a song that winds up on like the Billboard fucking top 100. Who do you imagine it being? If you had to pick one pop artist to be like, this is the one who's going to use a fucking blast beat.
I tell you what, she'd win me over if Taylor Swift put a fucking blast beat in a song. She'd fucking win me over. But
oh my God. Shake it off. Shake it off.
You know who I could see doing it, but like I don't know what the fuck she's doing. But like Lady Gaga, because of how much we know that she likes metal.
Yeah, sure.
I could see her being like, yeah, this is the blast beats part.
This is the blast beats part. I was gonna say like who would be the first pop artist, but it can't be Lady Gaga or Miley Cyrus. But no, I feel like it would be one of them too. Or like, but I would love to see it just be someone like super super bubblegum, fucking, oh god, what the fuck is her name? Call Me Maybe, girl.
Is that Carly Rae Jepsen?
Yes, Carly Rae Jepsen with a fucking blast beat. like the way that Vanilla Ice came out with like the heavy metal version, the new metal version of Ice Ice Baby. Like for her to just have blast beats in one of her fucking songs would be so cool. But the last blast beat that I want to blast off to, you know, we were just blasting each other off at this point, but the song Gratification Through Mutilation by the band Flesh Hoarder. These are just like good old blast beats, just used sparingly. Because like it comes up sort of throughout the chorus, and like it's just that, again, keeping time sort of blast beat with the slower double kick, but they hit fucking hard. And these guys are really really fucking good. Like if you like old school death metal, if you want like some stuff from that's reminiscent of earlier Cannibal Corpse, then Flesh Hoarder is going to be the fucking band for you. I don't know if we brought them up during our heavy metal Rorschach, because their logo's pretty fucking sick too. I think they might have been one of my honorable mentions that I'd hoped to get to, but that episode was almost like 3 hours long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I found them recently, and I think through TikTok. So yeah, just fucking check this song out. It's really fucking good. The blast beats are fucking solid. And all of their songs, it's like I think one of the songs is like Devouring Excrement. So they've got just like all those gross ass fucking song titles. I think they had to re-release their last album or second to last album to have like censored cover art for iTunes and shit like that. So I love that's, again, it screams Cannibal Corpse, where it's like, let's put this sticker over the fucking two zombies eating each other out.
Yep.
Like that sort of thing. I don't think we have to spend too much time dwelling on why blast beats get us so fucking excited. I think it's just like, I think it's something that's universal. So Chris, give us your next favorite blast beat.
So the next song I want to talk about is Withstand the Fall of Time by Immortal. This is off of their 1999 album At the Heart of Winter. This is the opening track, and honestly, this song is everything that I think of when I think of black metal. Like, it starts off with this great intro with like harmonized guitars and like guitars played at absurd speeds, and then eventually they get to a point where they're playing blast beats right before they get into the vocals. Yeah, I love this song. I love, again, how the blast beats are almost used as an accent. It's only a small portion of the intro that you have the blast beats. Right. The rest of it is a little bit slower, or it goes to a different tempo. But yeah, this song is amazing. And the blast beats are a big part of it. And then obviously Abbott's vocals when he comes in is great. But yeah, it almost felt like, if we're going to talk about blast beats that really blast me off, I can't not talk about Immortal and this song Withstand the Fall of Time, because it's everything that it is, the black metal cliche. Like, it really is. And that's not to say it's like a cliche song. Like, it's a phenomenal fucking song. Right. Which is why it kind of feels like the cliche of black metal.
Yeah. I get it though. It's like, the reason I get it is because my final selection is also a black metal song. But I felt like we couldn't talk about blast beats without getting into black metal bands. And the rawness with which black metal came onto the scene, like the shitty sound where it was just, we're going to make as much noise as fucking possible. I fucking love that. And the song The Secrets of Black Arts by Dark Funeral is a wonderful fucking example of this, because like where Immortal's music sounds cold. A lot of black metal sounds cold.
Yep.
If that makes sense. This song starts out very wintry. It feels very cold. It feels very icy. And even the guitar parts are like almost cinematic. And then you get into the blast beats. And it's those like traditional black metal blast beats. And I fucking love it. Dark Funeral, I think, is probably my favorite black metal band because of the symphonic sort of cinematic elements that they have to their music. So like, again, you're talking about something that feels way more artistic or like cinematic. You don't expect a blast beat to be in a song that feels so epic and feels so grand, but it's able to accent that part of the song so well by just coming in after like, it feels like you could just hear trumpets and fucking horns in the mountains pretty much at the beginning of the song. And then you just get the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da with the fucking blast beats. I fucking love it. I love it. I love Dark Funeral. I think that they are one of the better black metal bands that are out there, especially of like the original group of black metal bands that had come out. And some of their earlier recordings sound like shit, and it's so good. It is so good. It makes me so happy to hear a shitty sounding blast beat played very, very well. Chris, I think we have to hand it to ourselves. I really thought that this episode was just going to devolve into a bunch of fucking jerk off jokes. So, with that being said, give us your suggestion for blast off song, but not until I tell you that you can. Okay, go ahead.
Oh boy. So, my suggestion that
as he
everyone
tries to get his mememory of that out of his head.
Yes. You've awoken something inside of me, and I'm not sure what's gonna happen with my life now. My suggestion to blast off is a band that I have been looking for a reason to talk about for a long time, and I am so glad I finally have the opportunity to. That is the band Hoth. They are indeed named after the planet from Star Wars because they are a Star Wars themed black metal band.
Oh my god.
And their first album, Infinite Darkness, had songs that were like very clearly about Star Wars. Like the titles of the songs were about Alderaan and Rancors and the Pit of Carkoon and like all this stuff. But the song I actually want to talk about,
fucking awesome.
yeah, it's my brother told me about them, and he was like, "You're gonna fucking love these guys," because like he tells me about this album Oathbreaker that came out in 2014. Yeah. This album is about Anakin Skywalker turning to the dark side. So my brother tells me you should check this album out. It's about Anakin Skywalker becoming Darth Vader, but their second album, this album that is about Anakin Skywalker, no references to Star Wars at all. If you know it's about Star Wars, you get it through the lyrics.
Okay.
But at no point in the lyrics are they explicitly saying anything from Star Wars about. They're not mentioning Palpatine. They're not mentioning Darth Vader. They're not mentioning Anakin Skywalker. Mm-hmm. But if you know the story of the prequels and you know what Anakin Skywalker went through, you understand that the lyrics are very clearly about Anakin Skywalker. So the song I want to talk about is A Blighted Hope, which like that's a reference to A New Hope, if I ever heard it. The first Star Wars movie. But A Blighted Hope does something that is super important to all extreme styles of music. The first half is acoustic guitar.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And so you have this like wonderful acoustic guitar, and then the electric guitars comes in, and then there is a brief but super exciting portion of blast beats. And when I was listening to the album recently, I was like, yes, finally, I could talk about this band, Hoth. Because when my brother, he's like, yeah, they're a Star Wars themed band. I look at their logo, It is in the shape of Darth Vader's advanced TIE fighter. Like it couldn't be more clear that this is a Star Wars themed black metal band, and I fucking love it. So that's why I suggest everyone go blast off and listen to A Blighted Hope off of the album Oathbreaker by the band Hoth.
I am so excited to now, like, wait until I'm alone, like, turn the lights down way low, and make sure that my fucking phone is not connected to, like, the Bluetooth speaker in the living room so that I can listen to these guys, because that would be real embarrassing if I was listening to them in the privacy of my own room, but the audio was playing in a different room.
Yeah.
So that's everyone's nightmare.
Absolutely.
The song that I want our listeners to blast off to this week is the song Ritual by the band Gorgoroth. This is another song with an Oompa Blast. It's like, you know, an Oompa Blast. This sounds like you downloaded the wrong fucking Willy Wonka movie.
Yeah, definitely. It's here's Willy's Wonka, you know, like,
and the Chocolate Factory.
yeah. Willy's Wonka in the Chocolate Factory. Oh boy.
Oh man, Timothy Chalamet was never the same.
Yeah.
So this is one of those like boota 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 boota, like kind of fucking Oompa Blast types of beats, and it's got that really raw, like early black metal sort of recording style. I love these guys. Fucking Gorgoroth is like, not only I believe they were banned from playing Italy because they were like, they either had like pig heads on the stage with images of the Pope, or it was like something to do with the Vatican, where the Vatican was like, we do not want these people playing anywhere fucking near us. So they were banned for a while, but they're just like that fucking intense style of black metal. And this song is so fucking good. It embodies the fun of what it is to just listen to a fucking blast beat. And like, truly, I hope that with the suggestions and with the other songs and with the bands that we've talked about throughout the episode, that we've given you guys enough material where now you've got kind of a spank bank to blast off to with these blast beats. And I think anytime we listen to music, we should be excited enough to just blast off, because it should cultivate something in us where we want to hear more of this. We're constantly looking for something more and more extreme. And that can be a slippery slope, but it just leads to better and better fucking music for you to listen to. So yeah, just go out, take these suggestions,
Yes.
have some fucking fun with it, and find some more fucking blast beats. All right, Chris, I gotta run. I'm gonna go play these songs really fucking loud so I can go blast off in the shower. That brings us to the end of this episode. Thanks for tuning into the Scrap Metal Podcast. The time has come for us to say goodbye. It was better in my head.
Oh boy.
Thanks for tuning into the Scrap Metal Podcast. The time has come for us to pack up our gear, but we'll be back to blast off with you in the next episode.
Stay metal, everyone.
Good night.